The pandemic has been the worst crisis of renters' lives. Over the last several months, we've heard from thousands of renters about how they're deeply struggling.
Stories of people getting evicted, unable to pay rent, and struggling during the COVID-19 pandemic are drawn on these postcards addressed to BC's Housing Minister David Eby, and renters plan to flood his mailbox with them.
It says, "The stress is crippling. The landlord I owe rent debt to just sold my home for millions." Renters told us what they were struggling with, and we created some artwork and we put them on postcards, and we are sending those postcards to hundreds of members who will be writing to David Eby and sending it to them, the new housing minister.
The Vancouver Tenants Union surveyed 400 renters before the ban on evictions in BC was lifted on September 1st, and tenants reported deteriorating mental health, going hungry, and fears about making rent.
The stories were very difficult to read. When we were doing the survey back in August, I specifically remember one person who was a single mother, and they were getting evicted with their 3 children. And they were considering sending their children to live with someone else so that they would be able to try and make it through this.
Vancouver-based illustrator James Lloyd helped bring some of those stories to life.
There's one about a tenant who was about to move into a camper van because the travel industry had been put on hold and had taken such hits. I was also very moved by the second story, which is about a mother and her son who were both dealing with mental health issues and had been evicted, and were now having to look at new accommodations that they simply couldn't afford.
We made hundreds of phone calls to VTU members. They said that 60% they themselves or they knew someone personally would benefit from having an eviction ban in place. 57% said that canceling rent debt would be important to them. And so if the minister is considering renters as a constituent, then we're really hoping that he starts listening to those, starts coming to the table and having conversations.
Attorney General and Minister for Housing David Eby wasn't available today, but an email statement from his office says in part, "On the public health side, we're in a very different place than we were in March. We brought in the eviction ban when thousands of people were losing their jobs and things were much more uncertain than they are now with a vaccine on the horizon." They add supports available for struggling renters include tax-free recovery benefits, rent repayment plans, and a freeze on rent increases until July 10th, 2021.
A rent freeze is a good first step, but unless it's in conjunction with other policies, it's not going to help get renters through this crisis.
In Vancouver, Kier Junos, City News.